course, anyone in this day and age has to be customer focused. I can't believe, having grown up in a shop myself, that anyone trying to run a shop or a business isn't customer focused. But by all accounts, people weren't in the old days. Now, being customer focused is simply not good enough. You've actually got to be customer obsessed. And the reason why you've got to be customer obsessed is pretty simple. The bottom line here is whatever you're selling anywhere at any time can be bought somewhere else. And the internet has only made that a good deal worse. That means to say we are now dealing in fundamentals, and strip all the fancy talk away, all the technology away. We are talking about customers now have real choice like they've never had before. And everyone says, yes, I understand that, Martin. But the bottom line is, what do you do about it? You're actually in the business of being chosen. Then you have an expertise in finance. Then you have an expertise in do-it-yourself. Then you have an expertise in bread or whatever it is that you're doing, hospitality. Just about 2 years ago, everyone cottoned on to the fact that decisions are emotionally driven. When I first started writing, I couldn't believe. Everyone thought success came from ubiquity. Now, actually, they're conceding that actually it is something to do with emotional components. But the reason why so many people talk about it and actually don't deliver it is because they're missing the fundamental. And the fundamental is that people that are working with you in order to get these decisions made have got to be totally involved as well. And that's the reason why you get so much talk about customers and very little walking. And the part of the purpose of the book, the secondary purpose, was to actually see if I could try and understand what it is that the walkers actually do differently to just the talkers. So let's start from the first thing. You cannot be a customer obsessed if you don't know what you're meant to be obsessed about, right? I mean, it's common sense. There's not a lot of rocket science in what I'm talking about. And I've traveled around the world interviewing the world's best, and they all agree. Unless you know what your purpose is, why you exist, you don't recognize what a good decision looks like. And one thing's for sure, people don't know how to change their actions as a consequence. And that's the most important bit, getting people to actually understand what they're meant to do in order to fulfill the ambition. So often there's just a unity of purpose rather than a unity of presence rather than a unity of purpose. So, we've all agreed then it's all about edge. We've all agreed that people are going to deliver it. Then we have to talk to these people throughout the business, sometimes when you've got 200,000 people working for you, or whether you've got 20 people working for you, you've actually got to then say, how do we express what this thing is? Now, the marketeers, of which I was one, we can go into a lot more depth about it, but I like to talk to people about emotional edge, something that really, really cuts through. And that's what the most customer-obsessed businesses believe they need to do in order to win. And what is a customer edge? Emotional edge, it's the only thing you can own. That's the reason why it's so important. The other thing that customers simply won't tolerate anymore is lack of authenticity when they're in the shop, in the store, when they're actually being sold to. No one needs someone reading the packaging with you to see how something works. And what I understood about passion, I was talking to Italy in New York about this, and suddenly it clicked. You can't have authenticity without passion, and it's not just about passion about what you do, it's passion about why you do it. And when you get those two things coming together, you get the sweet spot in the middle, which is then when you're really cooking, and that's what you've got to be looking to do. Everyone talks to me, oh yeah, we've got passion. Passion's very important in my business. Oh yeah, we've got passion. But you can't actually talk yourself into passion. You've actually got to feel it. The other thing that everyone talks about is this thing called empowerment. And I had a really wonderful session with someone that's in the book, and he turned around to me and he said, you know what? We like to believe our associates need permission to say no to customers. Now, it's really strange to be talking about empowerment with the word permission and the word no in it. But when you actually think about it, it's brilliant. They need permission to say no to a customer. Thereby, they have to say yes. That's what's expected of them, and whatever it takes, you're empowered to do. The really good bit is, where a lot of people forget the joined up bit, is the people supporting them also have to say yes to the people that are delivering the yes. You get what I'm coming from? So, I mean, this is a really important issue. And why I talk about emotional precision. And it's very easy to use these words. So what does emotional precision mean? Well, let's just start from something simple, if you will. What happens when you add ease to simple? Sorry, emotion to simple. You get easy. And we as human beings are hardwired for easy. What bit of easy don't you like? Nothing. Neither do your customers. That's why the really great businesses go out of their way every day and every way to make something easier for themselves and their colleagues every day. And it's one of these things that's very infectious, because you start saying, hey, that's not very easy, and you've got permission to make it easy. Same thing with service. What's service? Well-performed functions. Yeah? What happens when you add emotion to it? You get care. What human being doesn't want care? And talking about understanding what needs to be done, what I found on my travels, on my research, is that now that the scientists and the boffins and the Silicon Valley boys are getting involved, we're talking jargon. No one understands jargon, so you should be banning jargon. I know it's something that John feels very strongly about. So let's take, for example, you've got multi-channel, omni-channel. How does some Saturday 17-year-old girl and the checkout react to that? If you turn around to her and say, as John Stein said to me of Intel, hey, it's about channels of influence, therefore everything we're doing, whether it's online, offline, on the phone, in the warehouse, on the brochure, on the shop floor, whatever it is, if you turn around and say, this is all about channels of influence and how we're going to get the customer to seamlessly choose us. And I might then take it to the next stage and say, and it's got nothing to do with channels, because that's all about us. It's not about them, right? So we should be looking at influence, and that will be the future of retail. These great companies are also shifting their emotional center of gravity. I've always hated the word customer centricity. It actually innocently drags people in the wrong direction. What we should be doing now is actually taking our customers, taking our customer cohorts, and actually saying, you are very special individuals to us. The way I like to explain it, so that everyone in the business understands it, is that you reach out and wrap the business now. You don't pull in and process, which is what the people without soul would have us do. And of course, technology and of course, data is going to help us identify who, what, and how, but it still takes the people to actually reach out and wrap, because the data can't deliver this emotional engagement. Only we can do that. No algorithm can understand emotion. Don't confuse artificial intelligence with emotion. Steve Jobs, as ever, has got a great expression for this. Stop worrying about how to sell stuff. Start worrying about how our customers feel. That's where success lies. That's where the passion comes from. Because we're all 100% human beings. All our customers are. And you know what? 85% of them are women. 85% of the world's consumer spending is accounted for by women. Women account for 60% of boys' toys. 70% of influence on men's clothing. You can take that back. You look really ridiculous in that. What man hasn't been there? And of course, the other thing is when you're thinking about people as human beings, then you start forgetting about just data and insight and start talking about what's going to influence behavior. This guy, Dan Pink, phenomenal behavioral scientist, was called into a Dallas parking mall and saying, we can't get people to stop parking in the reserved parking bays. We've tried fining them, clamping them. He said, it's easy. Appeal to the limbic part of the brain, not the neocortex. We're after the limbic bit that actually affects behavior. So he said, Personalize it, make it emotional. They put these signs up, and including women. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a reference to it. And suddenly cars were going into this thing for the first time in years, reading the sign with this guy, think of me, they were reversing out. And what happened when they took the signs down after the 2-week test where not one person parked in there? They took the signs down, put reserve parking in. Within 2 days, people were parking in reserve parking bay because we weren't speaking to people emotionally and actually giving a method of actually doing this. This was a wonderful program I saw on National Geographic called Crowd Control. So let me finish by not talking about the future, because everyone gets the future wrong. There's some sort of writing on the wall as far as I'm concerned, and I'm really excited about this. Number one is digital trust, as I call it, needs to be elevated out of the IT department and into brand, into the very being and DNA of your business, because people won't choose you if they don't trust you, particularly on the digital arena. Something I personally feel very strongly about, the end of the unfettered data collection is nigh. You know what it's like when you want a weather app and you've got to give them permission to see all your photographs? Right? That's just because they're collecting data and data and data because they can, and then sell it on, right? Now, I've got nothing wrong with that, but we as customers are in power, and we're meant to have all the power, and suddenly we've got a blind spot to all this. So what we have to do as retailers, as people really interested in customer focus, is to actually turn around and say, let's build a really great relationship with our customers so that when legislation comes in and all this ridiculous bloatware on your computers, bloatware on your devices, when all that comes to an end, then we've got their wonderful relationship, and they're going to be using 6 or 7 great brands who they will really trust and allow you to have their information. And the other thing, of course, is service as a product. We really cherish and love price and product, but we don't cherish and love service in the same sort of way. That's got to happen. This is what Prime are doing. The only profitable bit of Amazon at the moment is Prime, and Prime are doing it as a service. Its service is what they're actually making money out of. They've got the diaper service. They're not trying to sell diapers. They just want to make sure that you don't run out at 3 a.m. in the morning. It can get pretty messy. But they'll make sure that you're always in if you sign up to it. And finally, this paradigm shift that's going to come with 3D printing, which apparently has been around for 30 years. So what we're going to see now is people being able to print the stuff rather than come into shops and buy it. Well, what's that going to do for what we as retailers, what you as retailers are? How's that going to affect the future? If we haven't set in train now, great relationships. Right, that's enough of me. I'm too excited. I've got my great guests coming up here. So can I ask Brad and John to come up? And ask them some questions about what I've been talking about and see how it goes. Well done. So, Brad.
Yes.
Yep. I met Brad in San Francisco a year and a half ago when I was on a research trip and suddenly realized that he was one of my gods. Not only did he learn law at university, he then was part of the halcyon days of Target department stores. He's a Hall of Famer in America. That's not easy to be, right? And he has also created one of my world favorite all-time great pieces of marketing communication. Would you like to see it? It was made 20 years ago, and you see what bits it's ticking of everything that I've said about the future of retail.
Hi, I just want to make a deposit.
You have your account number?
Right here.
Lean forward, please.
What is this?
It's our new customer tracking system. It has your account number and barcode. It speeds you right through the line.
Now what?
That line over there.
Feel like banks are getting a bit impersonal? Try Washington.
Right. Sorry about that. We were assured it was going to work. So, and then I'd like to introduce John Gillam from Melbourne in Australia, who I think is possibly the finest retailer on the planet. What he does at Bunnings is unbelievable. And it's not what he does, it's the way he leads his team. And of course, that speaks very eloquently to everything that I've said today. John is so successful that when he was showing me his details of his turnover and profits and whatever, what do you call it, John? Stairway to heaven? It was wonderful. It went like this, continuously. And I'm delighted to say that he's just led the audacious purchase of Homebase in the United Kingdom, which is also a do-it-yourself operation similar to Bunnings that he runs. Okay, we'll see if we can try and get the video fixed for the end of the session. But I'm going to kick off, unless anyone's got a burning question, with some questions of my own to the two gentlemen here. We up for that? Yeah? Come on, audience participation. Well done, great. Okay, Brad,
yes,
thank you for coming from Sanford. We got the world covered here, right? Why have most banks failed?
Well,
yeah. And to emotionally engage their customers.
It's so interesting because I told someone that I had basically been in banking since Lincoln was president. And one of the things that I had observed over time is that there is no business in the history of money that is more transaction focused than a bank. And when you think about your own experience with a bank, you go in and you stand in line, as that television commercial was about to illustrate, and someone yells at you next, and you walk up and then they ask you what your account number is, right? And so they're confirming at every point of contact that you're no more than a number. I've always been entertained by it because if you go outside the bank and you attempt to use your ATM card, as opposed to recognizing the language that you speak or how long you've been a customer of theirs, you'll get a message back that will say, your transaction is being processed, right? In the United States, there are over 6,500 banks. So basically you could, and those are not offices, those are individual companies. And so basically you could blindfold someone, they could throw a rock and they would hit a bank, right? And they're just a sea of same. And so I think that's why, Martin, it has been so difficult for banks to connect emotionally with their customers. We started a brand new bank at a very interesting time. The year was 2010. It was at the end of the financial crisis when credit was frozen and unemployment was very high and it was actually accelerating. And we started that bank at a time when people were looking at the financial crisis and really believing that the banks were the reason the financial crisis had been created. And so when I got a call from a guy who had raised hundreds of millions of dollars to start a brand new bank, I remember saying to him, look, if you need someone to do your marketing and advertising, I've got a big Rolodex, but I'm not your dude, right? And I had a conversation with him, and we decided that what we wanted to do was plug into the market emotionally. And I thought there was a beautiful opportunity for everyone who's in retail, and from my retail days or financial services days, to plug into your market emotionally. And we thought about this, and we thought, well, you know, we started the bank in California, which is the largest economic center of the United States. And what we did is we realized that there were thousands of young entrepreneurs and business leaders up and down the coast who had a passion. They had an idea, they had a dream for growing their business. And if you went out and you spoke with them, they spoke eloquently about that dream. They spoke about their desire to help their business grow, to get people back to work, to expand their business. And so we decided that our mission and our purpose would be to really go out and be a partner for growth and to help enable the enablers. The need was so great and the emotional attachment was so really fundamental that 5 years later we went public, and now we are the fastest growing bank in the United States and one of the top 200 banks in the nation. So it just goes to show the power of emotional engagement.
Yeah, well done. I mean, it's a phenomenal. Do read about Opus Bank. I mean, what they're doing for their customers and the emotional engagement in something which is not normally to be seen in financial institutions is outstanding. John, Bunnings, brilliant. What's it all about? How are you successful?
Oh, we're 130-something years old, so it hasn't been an overnight story. But across Australia and New Zealand, we've got 10 billion Australian dollar turnover, a team of 40,000. And we're 45 days into our presence in the UK and Very early, very
Brilliant.
early days with the acquisition of Homebase, but we were excited about the future there. In the end, our business is built around helping people live better lives. That's fundamentally what we're there to do, whether they're working for us or they're the people we're serving and trying to help along. The hardware store is now home improvement, and the hardware store used to help everyone. It still does. But when we think about homes, they're very emotional, and they got a home, we got a store. No one's going anywhere. We want to look after people and their homes and their gardens. And we want to look after them for little things and big things, solve a little problem, that's necessities, help with a big dream, that's discretionary, sell to the pro who's going to that house or sell to the homeowner. We're just happy to help anyone. So we organise our thoughts around having a winning offer because, as you quite rightly remind everyone, it's customers who choose. It's not a push. Yeah. You have to be chosen, so you have to be obsessed about having a winning offer. And then our second thought is we just have to have a great team. Yeah. They have to be engaged and committed, want to be there and bring that passion to look after customers and bring a winning offer to life. Yeah, absolutely. And then our third thought is to be trusted. Customers must trust what you stand for. That's how they'll choose you. Your team must trust you as an employer so that they can commit to you and commit to you as part of their lives and commit to what the purpose is. And the fourth thing is to make a buck. We're in a business. We won't survive tomorrow. In fact, we can't get stronger tomorrow. We can't plan for the future if we're not profitable today. So we think about it. Winning offer, super team, being trusted. And
how do you get these super teams? I mean, what do you mean by that?
You hire for character.
Yeah.
You need people with energy and enthusiasm and a common thought so that the passion's there. You treat them right. You allow them to be part of the business. You allow them to make decisions. Treat them as adults. Yeah. We don't want to robotise our stores. We need to localise. Australia, listening to the Loblaws talk earlier, Australia is a massive landmass with not many people. There's tropics in the north and it's very cold in the south, and New Zealand gets even colder in the South Island. So we've got a huge array of product. We need our store teams, whether they're in Darwin or they're in Dunedin, to bring our store to life for that community. Yeah. So they must be passionate about localising the store for them. I think if you treat people well, you give them the ability to care for customers, you make them part of what you're trying to do, and you share what you're doing with them, then you will get their passion. And
I love the way you go out of your way to hire ex-trades and people, florists and things like that. And they stay. I mean, your low churn is real testament to what it's like to work in this place.
I think we've been very lucky in that we dared to hire people on a permanent basis, and 85% of our hours through our store teams in Australia are worked by our permanent team. We have a retention of 90%.
That's brilliant.
On that number. Phenomenal. And that allows us to invest in them, allows them to plan their lives around being with us. Yeah. And the more they learn about product and project, whether they started as a plumber or an electrician or a chippy, or down the other end, they're really good at decorating and painting, or they're fantastic in the garden. Whether they started at that, they can still learn more, and then what they can pass on to a customer is real advice.
Absolutely.
And then you become part of how a customer looks after their home and garden.
So Brad, personalisation. I mean, okay, you've got to know people's names, but you're dealing in the same stuff as everyone else. It's called money. So how do you personalise that and say?
Well, I think personalization at a mass scale is one of the most difficult things to accomplish, and I think that it needs to be engineered into the business process. Yeah. And you know, you and I were talking earlier, Martin. The idea of Nordstrom in the United States, a great department store, right? I continue to be fascinated by how well they do it. I had an experience a couple years ago personally where I walked in and I was with a friend of mine and I saw a suit that I wanted and it was not inexpensive and I purchased it. And I went back in to try it on and it didn't quite work. And I said to the salesperson, "This is my fault. The last suit that I purchased had been custom tailored, and I know that you guys can't do that to the suit." And the guy looked at me, and here's was the response. He said, "Give us one more chance to make it right, but I want to tell you something."
Brilliant,
yeah. When you come back and you get it, take it away, wear it, bring it back in whenever you would like, and we will custom make a suit for you. And I want to tell you what fascinated me about that, is that he said it with no trepidation. And in a retail company, as you know, that meant the GMM, the DMM, the buyer, the regional manager, the store director, the head of the department, and this person with whom I was speaking, all had to be in agreement that that would be their standard of service, right? And so it created this remarkable experience that you can imagine I've told on more than one occasion, right? In banking, the situation was a little bit different in that we had to find a simple way to allow people to personalize the experience. And because we were a commercial bank and we were helping business grow, I wanted to observe the behavior. So I sat in on a great many client meetings, and here's how it would go. Someone would walk in the door that sat at the table across from the banker, and they would say, I need $20 million. And quickly, the conversation would devolve into price, right? And so I felt that if we could get the conversation out of price and into emotion, so we thought if we had people say, why do you do what you do? Suddenly, the individual who was sitting across from us would begin to talk emotionally about their dreams and their aspiration and what they hope to achieve, and it would enable us to create real value, to bring all the bankers to the table who could really help them achieve their dreams and their aspirations for their business. Because I realized people didn't need another bank, but they did need a banker, right?
Exactly, brilliant.
And so I think that was one of the ways we accomplished personalization. I also want to tail onto what John was saying, because you have to hire to the brand. It's incredibly important. And, there's that story of Chicago. There was a hiring fair at a new opening. And hundreds of people had shown up, and there were tents and hot dogs and sodas, right? And everyone was standing there with an application in their hand, and I'll never forget what I saw. The store manager came out, and she took a microphone, and she tapped it, and everyone looked, right? And she said, I don't want anyone to fill out an application right now. And everyone was quite shocked. And she said, but what we're going to do is we're going to organize you into teams, and what we want to do is the store's going to open in about 15 minutes, and we want to deploy you to the door in teams. And what we're going to ask is quite simple. We just want you to greet every guest who walks in the door. I was standing there. 50% of the people got into their car and drove off. And I said to the store manager, well, tell me, what was the impetus for that? And she said, we can't train people to be friendly. And so it allowed them to do a very simple edit and to hire to the brand, and I thought it was really powerful.
And this whole point of, everyone talks, yes, emotion, it's absolutely important, but how do you actually deliver this?
Right.
And that's really where the walking the talk comes in, absolutely. So, John, we hate jargon, don't we? So what's purposeful autonomy then? As you talk about it internally.
Businesses are complex. They are complex. And as leaders, you can get lost in that complexity and then you will lose your business. So I think a real challenge of leadership is to recognise that you must take the complexity and make it simple. And then if you want high performance, you must take the simple and make it compelling. We want great service. There are lots of things that go into great service, but in the end, being friendly and helpful are emotional words that everyone understands. So our service strategy is be friendly and helpful. Be friendly and helpful. We've got all these tactics back up behind around making sure we've got diversity of age, diversity of skill, all sorts of things that will bring the right answer. But if people aren't friendly and helpful, we will collapse before we've started.
Right.
And that complex to simple, simple to compelling, that's super important. The other thought we have, listening to you, Brad, talk about your Nordstrom experience, you have to swing things completely around the other way. It's our job as leaders to make sure everyone is empowered to serve. They can say yes, they can solve the problem, they know they can. And that's what purposeful autonomy is. We're purposefully setting out to allow our store teams and the shop floor team to have the ability to do what needs to be done. And that's almost a reversal of obviousness in one sense. It's also recognising that people want to make decisions. And if you hire the right people, they will make good decisions. They will naturally accept the responsibility and they will thrive on it. And then you get ownership. You get ownership in that moment in the store. And that, if you really think about what's going on, whether someone's typing the live chat, whether they're talking on a call centre, when they're in a home doing a design and consult or they're in the store with a customer who's made an effort to come to you, they have your brand in their hands.
Right.
How well are they going to live that moment? If you don't set about making sure they really want that moment to be good for that customer, you're in a lot of trouble.
And of course, a major part of this, which I'm a great evangelist on, is this whole idea of allowing the workforce to pull, which is so important these days. I mean, you do this, don't you?
Well, we're not interested in upselling, we're not interested in trick selling, in fact, we're happy not to sell.
Yeah.
If someone has got a home near our store and they come and get some great advice and then go home, it's fantastic.
Wonderful.
We were relevant for them.
Yeah.
And they will be back
Yeah.
because we were relevant for them and we made an emotional connection. So we celebrate things that involve the right selling.
Yeah.
And
That's
the talk before about asking the question, have a chat. Have a discussion with a customer, find out what they're on about. They're buying, I'd like to buy a drill. Well, that means they're going to put a hole. In what and for what? Because if it's just a hole into drywall to hang a 1 kilo poster, then they need the cheapest drill because it's got no work to do. But if they've bought an 80-year-old home with a concrete set and they're trying to do something with gardening, they're going to need a serious drill and some serious drill bits. And if you help them solve the problem they're really trying to do, they will really be happy with you because that's true value.
Yeah.
It's not just the product and the price, it's the value around what they're trying to do, and you made it easier for them.
So, Brad.
That's so true. So true.
It's so true, isn't it?
It
Yeah,
is.
I mean, talk to me about, this another thing that happened to me 20 years ago, he talked about new value. Do you want to expand on that? It's something that has informed my thinking ever since.
Well, I was just inspired to recall it by John's comments, really, because so often, the traditional view of value has been quality relative to price.
Yeah.
And what happens is, I think the difficulty is twofold. Number one, it puts the focus on the product rather than the experience, and it takes the customer out of the equation.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the entire, we've heard a lot about it the past couple days here, but if you look at the entire ecosystem of the purchasing decision, it's really more about what I get relative to what I pay. And when you think about what you get, well, obviously you get quality, but quality isn't the be-all, end-all. Quality is now cost of entry.
Yeah.
You get quality and you get quantity and you get an experience, like the experience of having someone ask you, what are you going to do with the drill, so we can help you determine what kind of drill you need and what kind of training and education you need. What you pay, on the other hand, is not only price. You certainly pay price, right? Price proximity relative to the competition is certainly important, but you also pay with time and you pay with emotion.
Yeah.
And those, I think, become, if you can really capitalize on the time and the emotion part of the equation, that's where you gain share of wallet. I love this comment. We're happy if they don't buy at all, right? You gain share of wallet and you also gain word of mouth.
Yeah.
And those are really powerful force multipliers in the market.
Yeah. I've got a whole step in the book which is dedicated to just talking about give a little of today for a lot of tomorrow. I mean, very old-fashioned.
It's a great phrase.
Yeah. Old-fashioned retailing, but
great phrase.
Geez, it works so well.
Yeah.
Well, care for your team, they'll care for your customers.
Well,
Some of these wonderful phrases from whenever the first time that rolled off someone's lips are even
they're still
more
true.
relevant today.
Yeah. And a happy workforce means happy customers, and I've interrogated that with psychologists and things. So it's really, it's really sound.
Well, standing on your feet, serving all day, sitting at a desk, answering call after call.
Tough.
It's tough. It's tough work. So have some fun.
Yeah.
Bring some energy and some fun and some laughter to allow the energy to stay up for all the moments that your team are going to be serving customers. It's really important.
It really is good. So I'm going to ask the last question to you then, because this is your third question, and this is about 3 dots. You were very passionate when you were talking to me about your 3 dots.
Well, we have a strap line. Lowest prices are just the beginning, ... And for us, it's just the beginning of everything. Whether it's the widest range, that's choice and convenience, whether it is the best service, but it's just the beginning of everything to solve the problems, bring a big dream to life, solve a little problem, and for our team, just the beginning.
Right.
We often use the phrase, it's just the beginning of just the next step we're going to have, because we want to build the best, we challenge ourselves to have the best results, the best feedback from customers. We're really proud of being Australia's most trusted retail brand for 10 years in a row. But that's something our team won, and it's theirs. And if we can just keep the dots going, just the beginning, dot, dot, dot. If you get an email from me, you'll always have 3 dots.
Yeah.
I've given up.
There's a lot in the book now. I mean, I've taken from you.
It's a disease.
Look, we could go on forever, but we're not allowed to, and we're going to really break the mold by finishing on time, because that's my challenge I've been given. We've got 3 or 4 minutes. Have we got a question that anyone's burning? If it's easy and we can answer it, I'll give you one of my books, and I haven't got many because they're still hot off the press. Anyone got a question? Just shout it out so we can just keep the pace going. Yeah, louder. Shadow board. Do you have examples of shadow board?
Remind me of the concept, will you?
Okay, I can stop shouting now.
Yeah.
The shadow board is the group of people which isn't on the board, and still by any which way they're allowed to give you suggestions on how to improve your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, do you go out of your way to do that in the protocol?
It's what I refer to as the kitchen cabinet, right?
Yeah.
And I think
I call it the wife.
And I think really that often the most important shadow board are the clients that you're serving or the ones that you hope to reach. And I want to tell you the one that I think is most important at all, and that is not our own customers, but our competitors' customers, and asking them the single question: why did you choose competitor A, B, or C first? Because if you know that, it's going to help you gain market share, and it's really going to help you understand the market.
That's a great answer.
Yeah,
great
absolutely. Answer. Fantastic. Any other questions? No? I don't know if the video's ready to run, is it? Do we want to try it?
There's a thumbs up down the back left.
Have we got a thumbs up?
I think so.
Well, let's say goodbye with this video from Brad. This, again, is 20 years old, and it's as sparklingly relevant now as it was then.
Hi, I just want to make a deposit.
You have your account number?
Right here.
Lean forward, please.
What is this?
It's our new customer tracking system. It has your account number and barcode. It speeds you right through the line.
Now what?
That line over there.
Feel like banks are getting a bit impersonal? Try Washington Mutual. We're building our bank around you because we never forget it's your money.
It's a holdup.
I hate it when these things don't scan.
Washington Mutual.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful having you. Thank you very much.